All right, and so what I'm making this video for is I'd like to help you guys out with your translation, because I know that that is probably going to be a very a relatively new thing for everyone, especially on a test, and I know there's a lot of pressure. So I'm going to give you some advice. I gave you that 3-step process, which you can see right here. But first things first, I would like to tell everyone that when you reach the translation section, or even just at the very beginning of your test, what I want everyone to do is I want everyone to write this out. Now, of course, you are not going to lose points necessarily from not writing this out. That's not a graded part of the test, but if you write this out, I assure you, you will have an easier time with the test. So just simply write everything here out. It will help you out with figuring out the test. So this will show you the nominative, genitive, accusative for all the different genders that you could possibly find. And then for verbs, there's the singular. So verbs are easy to spot. They end in a T or an NT with a couple of exceptions, like words like et, or specifically, there are specific words like et or other adjectives or conjunctions, which obviously are not verbs. And is not a verb, and you will find a couple of adverbs which you should be able to tell just by knowing what the word is that it isn't a verb. Quickly, for instance, is not a verb, but we'll get to those when we get to those. So here is the 3-step process that I want everyone to learn and memorize for how best to translate a Latin sentence. First thing you want to do is you want to find the subject, which is the noun ending in a nominative ending. What is a nominative ending? It is one of these. It is one of these endings. So if it does not have one of these endings, then it is not in the nominative case and cannot be your subject. So you should move on to a different word to try and find the subject. Now, usually the subject will be the first or second word in the sentence. We'll get to those, but we'll get to those down here. Then what you want to do is you want to find the verb. Again, the verb is a word that ends in the T or with an NT. T for the singular, NT for the plural. So if the subject is singular, then the verb will end in a T. If the subject is plural, the verb will end in an NT. So that is the second thing you want to do. You want to find a verb, and then if the verb needs an object, in other words, if it is transitive, then what you want to do is you need to find the object, and the object will be in the accusative case. So what is the accusative case? It is one of the words that ends in one of these endings. So let's use an example. Example is right from the book. Marcus Iuliam pulsat. Marcus hits Julia. What is the subject of this sentence? Well, it's Marcus. How do we know that? Well, one, because Marcus was shown hitting Julia in the drawing. But if we just had the sentence like we do here, how would we know that Marcus is the subject and Julia is not? Well, very simply, Marcus ends in us. We know that Marcus is a boy, which means that he'll be a masculine. His name is a masculine word. So the masculine nominative singular is us. So we know from this that Marcus is the subject, which means that he is the one doing the verb. What is the verb? The verb is pulsat. Now, pulsat means to hit. Does hit need an object? Yes, because it doesn't really mean anything if you're hitting nothing. Even if you're punching the air, you're still punching the air, so you're never punching nothing. So it needs an object. All right, well, we only have one word left in the sentence, so we know Iuliam is going to be the object. But even if there were other words in the sentence for whatever reason, the ending, we can see that is one of the accusative cases, one of the accusative case endings, so we know that Iuliam is the object. All right. Next, we have Julia plorat. We can see that Julia is now the subject because of the fact that we know that Julia is a feminine word, and the only ending for the feminine right now is the nominative singular feminine. All right, so Julia is the subject, and then we can find the verb plorat. Plorat, we know it's the verb because it ends in a T. So Julia plorat, Julia cries. Does cry need an object? Not really. All right, so this is all we need for a sentence. But let's try to get a little bit more complicated. Let's go down here. So Marcus, Marcus. So this is obviously the subject, right? Well, yes, Marcus is the subject and we know that because it ends in us. But let's read the rest of the sentence. All right. So Marcus et tres ceteri pueri plorant et rident. Is Marcus the only subject here? Not really. So we have tres. Now tres, this es ending, that will be important later, but you can ignore that now. Just remember this. You just know that means three. We have ceteri pueri. Well, let's go back up to our chart. That can be either genitive singular masculine, nominative, neuter genitive singular, or it can be masculine nominative plural. All right, so this could also be nominative. Now we just need to figure out, is it neuter or is it masculine? Because if it's masculine, that can still be either. If it's neuter, it can only be singular. Well, pueri means boys, so that's obviously masculine. All right, so then this must be masculine. Well, does it really make sense to say Marcus and 3 of other boys? I suppose you could make that make sense, but it doesn't. But ceteri itself, of other boy, it would have to be. Yeah, I'm not feeling the singular stuff. So I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna say that it's probably going to be masculine nominative plural. All right. So Marcus and 3 other boys, plorant. So we have the nt there. It's nt because of the fact that we're talking about a total of 4 people here, Marcus and 3 other people. So therefore, plorant has to be plural. So it ends in nt, so we know that it is a plural word, and therefore Marcus and 3 other boys cry. Does cry need an object? No, it doesn't. Like we were going with plorant up here. Et rident. So now we have another verb here. So Marcus and 3 other boys, they cry and they laugh. Well, neither of these really need an object, so it looks like we are done with the sentence. Next, cur puer magnus puellam pulsat. So cur means why, and it anticipates a sort of because later on. We'll get to that in a second. So cur puer magnus, why does the big boy? Oh, well, puer is a kind of a weird word, but we know that magnus, that has to be it because of the fact that it ends in us. So puer magnus means big boy. That is our subject. That is all a subject phrase. Pulsat it's, again, you need to find the verb. Pulsat is the verb because it ends in t. It means hit, which means that it must be transitive, which means that we need an object. Puellam. All right. So why does the big boy hit the girl? Well, that is one sentence, and then we move on to the next one. Quia puer probus est. I meant to write improbus, so let's fix that right now. Quia puer improbus est. Because he is a bad boy. Now, is a verb. You can tell because it ends in the t, and because of the fact that it means is, which is a verb. And so quia puer probus est, improbus est does not need an object. So it looks like we are all good here. So why did the big boy hit the girl? Because he is a bad boy. Next, finally, at long last, cur ancilla file venit. Why? Okay, so that's another why. Why did the handmaid, that's our subject, come? But what do we do with this? Well, does venit need an object? No. So what do we do with filie? Well, she could be either in the nominative feminine plural, or she could be genitive singular. And I think that's much more likely because if we read it the genitive singular, what it means is, why does the handmaid of the daughter come? Because the daughter cries. All right. So that should be everything. Please attempt the sentence. I am really hoping to see someone, at the very least, email me next week because the emailing has been a little bit disappointing. I suppose I'll get confirmation at the very least that you watched the end of the video, which is always nice. All right. Have a good day.